What if Earth wasn't the best planet for life? What if, somewhere in the vast expanse of the universe, there exists a world more perfect than our own, a planet where gravity feels lighter, air is fresher, food grows without struggle, and storms never spiral into destruction? For centuries, humanity has looked up at the stars and wondered what lies beyond. But now, with science unlocking thousands of new worlds and technology pushing the edge of exploration, the question is no longer if other planets exist, it's whether one of them could be better than Earth. Over the next 3 hours, we'll explore this question like never before. We'll journey from the flaws of our own planet, to the breathtaking science of exoplanets, and finally to the future vision of how life on a superior world might unfold. This is not a story about escape. It's a story about possibility, resilience, and the next great frontier of human destiny. So sit back, open your imagination, and prepare to discover what it might truly mean to live on a planet better than Earth. From the moment humanity first looked up at the night sky, the idea of home has been defined by contrast. Earth beneath our feet, solid and familiar, and the stars above, distant and unknowable. For centuries, we have lived with the assumption that Earth is not only our birthplace but also the best possible stage for life. It is here that we breathe, grow food, raise families, and write history. Yet even as we celebrate this world's wonders, we also sense its imperfections. Floods wash away towns, wildfires reduce forests to ash, storms take lives, droughts starve fields, and pollution creeps into lungs. Earth is beautiful, yes, but it is fragile. And so the question begins to form, what if Earth is not the ultimate home? What if somewhere out there exists a planet that is not just like Earth but actually better? To begin imagining what better means, we must first recognize what Earth already provides. Its position in the solar system allows for liquid water to flow across its surface. Its magnetic field shields life from solar radiation. Its atmosphere, a mixture of nitrogen and oxygen, supports breathing and regulates temperature. Its gravity is gentle enough to allow tall mountains yet strong enough to hold oceans in place. These qualities make Earth rare, perhaps unique within our reach, and for countless generations people have praised its abundance. American culture in particular has celebrated the land as a kind of sacred inheritance. From songs about purple mountain majesties and amber waves of grain to the establishment of vast national parks, the United States has built much of its identity around the beauty and wealth of the land. But Earth is not perfect. Pollution stains rivers and seas. Cities choke on smog. Entire species disappear because of human activity. The climate grows more volatile with each passing year, and many Americans live with the knowledge that hurricanes, wildfires, and floods could destroy everything in an instant. The dream of safety on this planet is unevenly distributed, with some living in abundance while others face scarcity. Earth feels, to many, simultaneously generous and unforgiving. And it is this paradox, a paradise that contains seeds of its own destruction, that makes people wonder whether a better alternative could exist elsewhere in the cosmos. Defining better is not simple. For some, it might mean a planet with no hurricanes, no earthquakes, no fires sweeping across suburbs or farms. For others, better could mean abundant resources that never run out, skies forever clear, rivers unpolluted, fertile soil that requires no artificial chemicals to grow food. Still others might imagine a world where disease cannot spread as easily, where the environment naturally protects health. Americans in particular often see better through the lens of cultural values. To them, better means freedom to start anew, space for opportunity, resources to fuel innovation, and the possibility of building a fairer society. A better planet, then, is not only about ecosystems and climates, it is about human dreams projected onto the canvas of space. This is not a new pattern. In the 19th century, Americans spoke of the frontier as a place of possibility. The Western lands symbolized reinvention, escape from the old, a chance to define oneself anew. The idea was complicated and often tragic in its consequences for indigenous peoples, but it shaped a national psychology of forward movement. When that frontier eventually closed, the hunger for new frontiers turned skyward. In the 20th century, space exploration became the final frontier, a phrase repeated again and again in American culture. Landing on the moon was not just a technical achievement but also a continuation of the idea that progress means moving outward, toward unclaimed horizons. A planet better than Earth would be the ultimate frontier, not just a step forward but a leap into a new chapter of existence. If we are to imagine such a planet, we must first look at what Earth lacks. Consider its climate. While generally mild compared to the infernos of Venus or the frozen deserts of Mars, Earth's climate is increasingly unstable. Heat waves kill vulnerable populations. Rising seas threaten coastal cities. Hurricanes strike with greater ferocity. Imagine instead a world where the climate is not only stable but perfectly balanced, no record-breaking droughts, no unlivable heat, no massive storms. A world with mild temperatures across its surface, with rains that come in predictable, nourishing cycles, and winds that never rise to destructive levels. Such a climate would feel like paradise compared to the extremes we endure here. Next, think of resources. Earth is rich, but its riches are uneven. Oil is concentrated in some regions, water is scarce in others, fertile soil lies mostly in certain belts, and mineral wealth is scattered. Wars have been fought over access, economies rise and fall on the availability of these natural endowments. A better planet might offer resources in abundance everywhere. Imagine clean, endless energy sources woven into the geology, fresh water flowing freely on every continent, fertile soil stretching across nearly all land masses. No single nation would need to dominate another for survival. Opportunity could be shared far more equitably. For Americans, who often tie their sense of identity to fairness and opportunity, even if imperfectly practiced, such a world would represent a powerful ideal. Then consider the natural disasters that mark Earth's cycles. Earthquakes flatten cities, tsunamis wipe away coastlines, tornadoes tear through towns. A planet better than Earth might be geologically quiet, with gentle tectonics, no fault lines splitting continents, no volcanoes spewing ash into skies, no tsunamis racing toward unsuspecting shores. Life there would not live in constant fear of catastrophe. Stability would be the norm. It is important to recognize, though, that imagining perfection often reflects what we most fear about our current condition. To Americans living in wildfire-prone California, better might mean a world without burning hillsides. To those in hurricane zones of Florida or Louisiana, better might mean no more swirling storms that demolish homes. To Midwestern farmers, better might mean soil that never dries, crops that never fail. A planet better than Earth becomes, in essence, a mirror of our insecurities. It is both a dream and a confession. Yet humans are not only survival-driven, they are also dream-driven. A better planet would not only keep people safe but also inspire them. Imagine skies with two suns, painting landscapes in shifting shades of gold and crimson. Imagine nights with multiple moons, tides dancing in complex patterns, constellations unlike any we know. Imagine trees with colors Earth has never produced, oceans glowing with bioluminescence that stretches to every horizon. For Americans who have long associated the new with the beautiful, such visions would feel intoxicating. Exploration has always carried an element of awe, and a planet better than Earth would not only shelter life but also expand the human imagination. There is also the matter of history. On Earth, history is heavy. Nations are weighed down by centuries of conflict, inequality, and entrenched systems. A new planet represents the chance to reset. Americans in particular cherish the myth of starting fresh. The founding of their nation was framed as a new beginning, a chance to leave behind old European hierarchies. While reality was more complicated, the myth endures. A planet better than Earth would offer a chance to try again, to build societies with lessons learned, to avoid the mistakes of the past, to imagine constitutions and communities designed with foresight rather than hindsight. This hope is as much political as it is ecological. Yet this vision carries tension. A better planet could also magnify existing inequalities. Who gets to go? Who decides what values guide this new world? If only the wealthy can leave Earth, then a better planet might become merely another stage for the same divisions that already scar our home. For Americans, who struggle with questions of equality and justice, this tension is particularly sharp. The dream of opportunity collides with the fear of exclusion. A better planet, in this sense, is not just a scientific question but a moral one. Still, the yearning remains powerful. To imagine life on a planet better than Earth is to imagine life unburdened by some of our greatest anxieties. Clean air with no smog. Rivers free of toxins. Food grown without fear of scarcity. Neighborhoods without sirens warning of storms or fires. A society that begins from a place of abundance rather than desperation. It is no wonder that Americans, who have built much of their culture on the promise of second chances, would find the idea so appealing. This yearning is not naive. It is, in fact, deeply practical. As Earth faces rising challenges, the search for alternatives is not only about ambition but about survival. If humanity can find or build a world with fewer threats, it ensures continuity. Americans, with their tradition of bold projects and their immense scientific institutions, often see themselves as leaders in this pursuit. The same nation that placed astronauts on the Moon and rovers on Mars now dreams of worlds far beyond. And while some dream for the thrill of it, others dream because they fear what Earth may become. Thus the idea of a planet better than Earth takes root at the intersection of necessity and imagination. It is born of recognition that Earth, for all its beauty, may not always remain hospitable. It grows from cultural traditions that prize frontiers and reinvention. And it flourishes in the soil of science, where telescopes scan skies for hints of worlds that might, just might, outshine our own. When we turn our gaze from Earth's limitations toward the universe, the first question is whether a planet better than Earth even exists. For centuries, that question was unanswerable. Stars were distant points of light, their mysteries sealed behind the barrier of distance. Ancient astronomers could track their positions, chart their cycles, but they could not know whether any of those distant suns hosted worlds. The idea of planets beyond our own solar system was speculation, unprovable. Then, in the final years of the 20th century, evidence began to arrive. Scientists discovered the first confirmed exoplanet orbiting a star beyond our Sun. It was the opening of a new frontier, one that has since exploded into a catalogue of thousands of planets scattered across the galaxy. Most of these worlds are hostile. Some are gas giants like Jupiter, swelling with storms but lacking solid surfaces. Some hug their stars too tightly, scorched by heat so intense that metals vaporize in their skies. Others orbit too far, locked in perpetual frost. Yet scattered among them are worlds of more promise, rocky planets, some close to the size of Earth, some lying in the so-called habitable zone where liquid water could exist. These discoveries ignite imagination. If Earth is not the only world capable of supporting life, then perhaps somewhere, circling one of those distant suns, is a planet that does not merely equal Earth but surpasses it. The science of exoplanets is young, but it grows rapidly. With space telescopes like Kepler and TESS, astronomers detect worlds by observing tiny dips in starlight as planets pass in front of their stars. From these faint signals, they infer sizes, orbits, and sometimes even atmospheric composition. The next generation of telescopes, like the James Webb Space Telescope, offers glimpses of chemical fingerprints in alien atmospheres, hints of water vapor, methane, or oxygen. Each discovery brings us closer to the possibility of finding not just a world that resembles Earth but one that improves upon it. What would improvement look like scientifically? Start with stability. Earth's orbit is slightly eccentric, meaning our distance from the Sun varies across the year. This contributes to seasonal shifts, which can be extreme in some regions. A better planet might orbit its star in a perfectly circular path, ensuring climate stability. Its axial tilt might be mild, preventing harsh seasonal swings, creating a world of gentle, predictable weather across most latitudes. Such stability would support agriculture without the constant risk of failure. It would reduce the dangers of drought or frost. It would allow societies to flourish without the constant anxiety of natural disaster. Atmosphere is another consideration. Earth's atmosphere, while breathable, also traps greenhouse gases that are now altering the climate. A better planet might possess an atmosphere naturally balanced to prevent runaway warming. Its air could be denser, providing more protection against radiation while still breathable. It could contain higher levels of oxygen, energizing life and perhaps supporting more dynamic ecosystems. Imagine skies clearer, stars brighter, horizons sharper, air so clean that breathing feels like a rejuvenation. Water is essential. On Earth, water is unevenly distributed, leaving some regions in perpetual thirst. A better planet might feature evenly spread oceans and rivers, ensuring that no civilization suffers drought. Perhaps it would have smaller continents broken by wide seas, distributing moisture across every shore. Rain would fall with rhythm and regularity, nourishing crops without floods or famine. On such a world, water wars would be unknown. Even the very gravity of a planet can shape life. Earth's gravity allows us to stand, walk, and live comfortably, but it also strains bodies. A slightly lower gravity might reduce wear on joints, lengthen lifespans, and allow for greater feats of movement. Not so low that bones weaken, but balanced at a sweet spot where strength is enhanced without risk. For a species driven by dreams of freedom and exploration, this would feel liberating. Yet the search for such a planet is not purely scientific, it is also cultural. Americans, in particular, see exoplanet discovery as a continuation of a national narrative. The same country that once celebrated the wagon trails and railroads now cheers for rockets and probes. NASA missions become symbols of identity, evidence that America still leads in exploration. When the Kepler mission revealed thousands of worlds, the excitement was not only academic but also deeply cultural. News outlets celebrated the idea of Earth 2.0, and artists painted visions of alien landscapes. A planet better than Earth became not just a scientific possibility but a cultural touchstone. The American imagination often blends science with aspiration. Consider the way exoplanet discoveries are presented to the public. Headlines rarely say, "Another rocky planet found." Instead, they ask, "Is this the next Earth?" This framing reveals a deep hunger not just for knowledge but for possibility. To an American audience, a new world is not simply data, it is a potential new home, a new chance, a new beginning. This hunger also shapes investment. American universities and companies pour resources into telescopes, satellites, and missions. Private entrepreneurs speak openly about colonizing Mars, though it is far from a perfect world. The drive comes from a sense that expansion is destiny. In a culture that has long celebrated manifest destiny, with all its complexities, space becomes the ultimate extension. A planet better than Earth would be the most profound discovery in this tradition, the greatest imaginable horizon. Of course, the scientific challenges remain immense. Distances are staggering. Even the nearest star systems lie light-years away, requiring technologies we do not yet possess to reach. Communication delays, radiation hazards, and resource requirements make interstellar travel daunting. Yet Americans often approach challenges not as deterrents but as calls to innovate. Where others see impossibility, they see opportunity. The same spirit that built railroads across a continent and aircraft that crossed oceans now turns toward spacecraft that may one day cross the stars. The science also suggests that better worlds may not simply be found but created. Terraforming, the process of altering a planet to suit human needs, becomes part of the conversation. Mars, though hostile, might be engineered into habitability through atmospheric thickening, greenhouse warming, and imported resources. While this would not create a planet better than Earth, it shows that human ingenuity might someday upgrade hostile worlds into livable ones. If technology can shape planets, then the line between found perfection and made perfection begins to blur. For Americans steeped in a culture of engineering and reinvention, this idea resonates deeply. Even so, the dream of a naturally better world persists. Scientists speculate about planets orbiting red dwarfs, where long-lasting stellar lifespans might allow civilizations to thrive for billions of years longer than on Earth. Others imagine super-Earths. Rocky planets larger than ours, with stronger gravity to hold thicker atmospheres, richer in resources, potentially more resilient to catastrophe. Some theories suggest such worlds could support biodiversity beyond what Earth has ever known. To Americans used to thinking big, such speculation feels natural. Why dream of another Earth when one can dream of a world superior in every measurable way? But the science also forces humility. Most exoplanets we have found lie so far that direct exploration is beyond reach. Our knowledge comes from hints in starlight, mathematical models, and cautious inference. We can dream of better worlds, but for now they remain shadows on our telescopes. This gap between desire and reality creates both frustration and motivation. For an American audience, accustomed to tangible progress, the challenge is to sustain faith in exploration even when results are distant. Yet history shows that patience can pay. Just as the moon landing seemed impossible until it happened, so too might the discovery of a better world feel impossible, until one day, suddenly, it is proven. The search itself transforms identity. Every exoplanet discovered reminds humanity that Earth is not alone, that the universe is filled with other options, other possibilities. For Americans, this knowledge reinforces a sense of destiny beyond national borders, beyond planetary boundaries. To imagine a planet better than Earth is to imagine America's story extending beyond its shores and even beyond its world. It ties the fate of one nation to the fate of humanity itself. As science advances, so too does public imagination. Films, novels, and games envision lush exoplanets where new societies flourish. While fictional, these visions shape real expectations. They prepare audiences for the possibility that one day a headline will announce, "We have found it, a planet better than Earth." When that day comes, the impact will not be scientific alone. It will be cultural, emotional, and political. It will reshape how people think of home. If the science and discovery of exoplanets offer the possibility, the vision of a planet better than Earth gives shape to destiny. What would life be like if humanity, and particularly Americans with their history of exploration, were to step onto the soil of a superior world? To imagine this is not to indulge in fantasy but to carry forward the same kind of dreaming that once inspired voyages across oceans and rockets to the moon. For those who believe progress requires a horizon, this is the horizon beyond all others. A planet better than Earth would first present itself through its environment. Imagine arriving on a world where skies stretch wider, where the atmosphere glows with clarity. The air is free of pollution, crisp and energizing, carrying the subtle sense of forests and oceans that have never known industry scars. Gravity might press just slightly less heavily, making every step feel spring-loaded, granting a lightness that encourages movement and exploration. Here, fatigue is slower to come, vitality lasts longer, and the very biology of settlers thrives in conditions optimized by nature itself. For Americans raised in a culture that prizes health, energy, and endurance, this would feel like stepping into a land designed for possibility. Water, evenly distributed, nourishes every region. Rivers meander across fertile plains, oceans sparkle without rising dangerously, rain falls in rhythm that sustains crops and ecosystems alike. No dust bowl, no parched deserts awaiting irrigation, no hurricanes fueled by warming seas. Agriculture becomes abundant not through struggle but through harmony. Every community, whether small settlement or vast city, has access to nourishment. Food security ceases to be a battle. For a nation that has long worried about sustainability, that has seen both gluttony and hunger, this is the promise of balance finally achieved. Ecosystems flourish in complexity. Where Earth suffers extinctions and dwindling biodiversity, a better world might teem with life in every niche. Its forests stretch dense with species, its oceans alive with creatures unknown yet thriving. Each step into a meadow reveals colors, sounds, and movements beyond imagination. This biodiversity offers not only beauty but resilience, ensuring stability in food chains, medicine in natural compounds, inspiration in every form. For Americans accustomed to national parks as treasures, this world would be the ultimate park, vast, untamed, but also safe in its equilibrium. Cities on such a planet would not need to fight against their environment but would harmonize with it. Architecture could rise with abundant resources, shaped to blend with landscapes rather than consume them. Energy would come not from fossil fuels but from plentiful renewable sources, perhaps solar power from a gentler, more consistent star, or tidal energy from balanced oceans. Instead of building against disaster, humanity would build with confidence, knowing disasters are rare. Skies above cities would remain clear, nights filled with stars unblocked by haze. Children would grow up seeing constellations as easily as their ancestors once did in pre-industrial ages. The cultural implications for Americans would be profound. In the United States, identity has always been bound to frontiers, the wilderness frontier, the industrial frontier, the space frontier. Each has carried stories of opportunity, resilience, and reinvention. A planet better than Earth becomes the ultimate extension of that story, a new chance to express values in an unbounded context. Settlers would bring with them the ethos of independence, the belief in self-governance, the culture of innovation. Yet here, those values could thrive without some of the conflicts Earth has imposed. Scarcity often fuels division, but in a land of abundance, cooperation may rise more naturally. For a nation divided by resources, politics, and environment, this possibility is healing. Technology would evolve differently in such an environment. Without the pressing need to combat climate collapse or pollution, human ingenuity could focus on expansion, art, and discovery. The frontier spirit would not die but would shift toward continual exploration of this world's unique features. Every mountain range would beckon, every forest conceal secrets, every sea floor hold mysteries. Americans, raised on narratives of exploration, would find endless new landscapes to chart. Expeditions would not be merely symbolic but necessary, expanding knowledge and creating shared pride. Education would transform. In schools on such a planet, science would not be abstract but immediate. Children could study alien ecosystems firsthand, learning biology from creatures never before seen, studying geology shaped by conditions subtly different from Earth. History would include not only tales of independence and civil rights but also the story of humanity's leap to a new world. For American youth, raised in a culture where innovation and progress are deeply celebrated, this would be both grounding and inspiring. Religion and philosophy, too, would shift. The discovery and habitation of a planet better than Earth forces questions of purpose. If Earth is not unique, then what does it mean to be human? For many Americans, faith has always adapted to science, finding ways to reconcile belief with discovery. On this new world, faith might focus on gratitude, on stewardship, on interpreting opportunity as responsibility. Philosophers would ask whether this planet is truly a gift or a test, a chance to do better, to avoid mistakes of exploitation and inequality. For Americans raised on ideals of justice and freedom, this conversation would feel vital. Economics would follow a different trajectory. Earth's markets are often driven by scarcity, oil, water, land. A planet better than Earth, abundant in resources, could reduce scarcity-driven conflict. Wealth might be measured less in what one hoards and more in what one builds. American capitalism, adaptive and innovative, might evolve into something more cooperative, less zero-sum, more focused on expansion and shared growth. That is not to say greed would vanish, but the very conditions of life would dampen its destructive edges. Politically, America's experiment in democracy could find new expression. Freed from some of Earth's entrenched inequities, settlers might design systems more inclusive, more responsive, drawing from lessons learned in centuries of struggle. The Constitution might serve as inspiration, but new charters would emerge, adapted to the realities of another world. Representation might expand to consider not only human needs but environmental ones, embedding stewardship into governance. For Americans who have long wrestled with the balance between liberty and responsibility, this is an opportunity to redefine the equation. Even culture in its artistic forms would thrive. Writers would craft novels set under alien skies, musicians compose songs inspired by landscapes unseen on Earth, painters capture colors unknown to our palette. A new national literature would emerge, echoing the voices of those who first set foot on another continent, another frontier. For America, where art has always intertwined with identity, this would mark the flowering of a new cultural epoch. Yet the greatest implication lies in reflection. A planet better than Earth would not erase Earth, it would cast it in a new light. Settlers, while grateful for their new home, would look back with mixed emotions. Sorrow for what was lost, gratitude for what was given, determination to avoid repeating mistakes. Earth would become a lesson, a reminder of both beauty and fragility. For Americans especially, raised on stories of second chances, this narrative would resonate, the chance to start anew, to build better, to carry forward the best of what came before while leaving behind the worst. Over generations, identity would shift. Children born on the new world would not feel nostalgia for Earth, they would feel pride in their home. Their patriotism would not be rooted in soil of the past but in the air, water, and gravity of the present. Yet they would carry the cultural DNA of their ancestors, the belief in freedom, the drive to innovate, the will to explore. They would inherit America not as geography but as ethos, expressed in every institution, every invention, every aspiration. America, in this sense, becomes not a place but a pattern, replicable across worlds. This does not mean challenges vanish. Conflict may still arise, inequalities may still appear, human flaws may still persist. But in an environment of abundance, such struggles might find easier resolution. Instead of fighting over diminishing resources, disagreements could focus on vision, philosophy, or creativity. The stakes would shift, and with them, the culture. For a society long burdened by scarcity and division, this is liberation. In time, such a planet might no longer be seen merely as better than Earth, but as humanity's true home. Earth would be remembered as birthplace, but the new world as destiny. Americans, in particular, would see themselves as pioneers of this transition, carriers of the frontier spirit across the stars. Their story would merge with humanity's story, dissolving national borders into cosmic identity. Yet even then, the values that defined America, resilience, innovation, independence, would live on, shaping the character of civilization on a planet better than Earth. The closing thought is not of escape but of transformation. A planet better than Earth is not simply a place to flee to but a place to become better ourselves. It challenges humanity, and particularly those shaped by American ideals, to rise to the occasion, to use abundance wisely, to honor the opportunity by building justly. It is not enough to find a better world, we must become a better people. In that sense, the vision of a planet better than Earth is not only about stars and soil. It is about character, destiny, and hope. It is about ensuring that when humanity finally sets foot on that superior world, it does so with lessons learned, hearts open, and eyes fixed not just on survival but on flourishing. And so, the narrative ends not with certainty but with possibility. Somewhere out there may be a world more stable, more abundant, more beautiful than Earth. Science tells us such planets are possible. Imagination tells us what life there might be like. Culture tells us why we seek it. For Americans, the dream of a planet better than Earth is the latest chapter in a long story of exploration. For humanity, it is the promise of a future not yet written. And when that future arrives, it will remind us of the simplest truth of all: the stars are not just above us, they are before us, waiting. We began this journey asking a simple question: could there be a planet better than Earth? Along the way, we uncovered Earth's fragile beauty, the science that searches for new worlds, and the cultural dreams that shape how Americans, and all of humanity, think about the stars. A better planet may or may not exist. But the search itself matters. It challenges us to take care of the home we already have, even as we imagine what could lie beyond it. Because maybe the real lesson is this: before we can find a planet better than Earth, we must become better ourselves. Only then will we be ready for the ultimate frontier. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of science, culture, and the human spirit. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe the channel.